hesitant to turn your cameras on while recording, just keep that in mind. Okay, so for this Career Readiness Leaders Network meetup, we really wanted to answer some of the calls for having some opportunities for your students to virtually interact with some professionals around admissions, enrollment, and enlistment. So this Career Readiness panel is all about beyond high school. So students that have tuned in today, welcome. We're very excited to have some experts that can help guide you with some advice and as you're thinking about what your next steps after high school look like. So just real quick, let's do a little bit of introductions. I'm going to have the facilitators for today, the planning team, go ahead and introduce themselves, and then our panelists for the day will introduce themselves as well. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. My name is Cassie Paulsgrove. I work for the Ohio Department of Education, and I lead a lot of our early college and early career readiness initiatives here. Thank you all for joining, and very much thanks to the students. Planning team, if you're able to give a wave, that would be great. Michelle, I see you on my screen first. You want to give a wave? Yep, go ahead, Amy.
I'm Amy Harker. I am the Career and Innovation Specialist for the ESC of Northeast Ohio, and I'm really looking forward to the interaction today with the students, and I'm excited to be here.
Hello, I'm Kayla Mack. I'm an Education Program Specialist at the Department of Education in the Office of Career Connections.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Washington. I'm a Career Connections Program Specialist here at the Department of Education. Thanks for joining us today.
Hello, I'm Latanya McKenzie, Career Director over at Millennium Community School. Thank you for having us.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and it looks like there is a group of seniors at Rittman High School too. So we would just want to welcome everyone, and if you have an opportunity to throw your name and your school or your organization in the chat just so we can continue to stay connected, that would be great. With that, we're going to start and talk a little bit about the stars of the show. So kicking us off today will be Sydney Young, and I'll give her a chance to introduce herself, but she's going to share with us a little bit about her journey in apprenticeship and give you students some advice on taking advantage of that unique opportunity. Then we're going to talk a little bit about employment options, and Dianica Gaston is joining us from Rev1 Ventures, so thank you so much. We're going to talk a little bit about employment options. We're also going to talk about enrollment enlistment options with Bill Stratton and Mort Cortez. And then most importantly, we want to give you all a chance to ask these experts some questions. So there's two ways that we're going to gather your questions. The first one is through the chat. So if someone is talking about something and you have a burning question that you want to drop into the chat, we will facilitate the chat and ask the panelists to answer your questions on time. But also we will have an open Q&A section at the end of the agenda for all of those questions that maybe didn't get answered in the moment. So use the chat for your questions, and then we'll also have an opportunity at the end for you to unmute and ask our panelists some questions. With that, let's get into it. So Sydney, do you want to go ahead and kick us off and introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sydney Young, and I work for Coco's Inc. as a construction carpenter. I've been doing this for 5 years now, and I completed my apprenticeship last year. And it's been great. So I am so excited to share my journey with you all. So here we go. Apprenticeships are pretty amazing and they give you a ton of opportunities, but I had heard that term so many times before and I had no idea really what it meant. So the best way to describe it in my experience is that you are paid to learn on the job the specific trade and skill, and it's very beneficial because when you finish high school, there are a lot of opportunities out there, but not many pay you to learn. And it's unlike any other college opportunity because some companies will also pay for your college education, which my company did. So I was able to do my apprenticeship and have my college paid for. I have an associate's degree in construction management, and that's pretty amazing just for being a few years out of high school. I also want to tell you about vocational schools and just encourage you throughout the time that I have about the different pathways and all the options that you have. And I mean, it's just a world of opportunities out there. So make sure you ask me plenty of questions because I have so much to tell you in such little time. And I would love to know kind of what interests you about what I have to say. So, going into apprenticeships specifically, I know that apprenticeships can sound kind of intimidating, especially when you realize what it takes to complete it. It takes 10,000 working hours, which sounds like a lot, but it's really just 4 years of on the job work full time. So 40 hours a week, you go to work for 4 years. That's all it is. And that is very doable. And that's what actually you're going to do until you retire. So it's very doable. And then sometimes, depending on how they do the apprenticeships through whatever employer you have, it can be after work. You have class, maybe 4 hours once a week during maybe May through August. Some places do 2 weeks where you don't work and you just go to class, and then some places it's on the job. They'll, instead of an 8 hour day, you'll do 6 hours, and they'll kind of change it. So it just depends on what employer and what curriculum they follow. But all apprenticeships are nationally regulated. So you can take your degree or your certification from Ohio to California or Florida, wherever it interests you, and it's transferable. So that's very important if you don't want to stay in Ohio or if you want to try different options. And then also, there are many apprenticeships, not even also construction, but also healthcare, engineering, software developing, building. There's so many out there that are willing to teach you what you need to know. And instead of paying it forward and then trying to find somewhere, some place or some employer to hire you. And if you go to apprenticeship.gov, you can search what you're interested in, and that will give you different apprenticeships local to you. And if you're saying, like, maybe you live in a smaller town, you can change the radius to reach a bigger city so you know what apprenticeships are near you. So once I found out what a vocational or once what an apprenticeship was, I looked into a vocational school. And I know that some of you are all ages in high school, freshman through senior, and a vocational school is open to juniors and seniors, and you can start looking freshman and sophomore year and visit. And there at vocational schools, you can look at the different trades they have and see what interests you. I chose construction. It was called Construction Technologies. And the benefit of going to a vocational school is instead of having to do my 4 years to get my certification, since I was exchanging my extracurriculars like philosophy and typing for construction technology education, I was able to cut a whole year off of that 4 years, and they counted that towards my on the job training. So it really helps you get your certification faster, which is great because who wants to spend more time than they need? It's similar to taking a college class in high school where you get credit. So I went to the vocational school my junior and senior year. It was a great experience. They give you your certification, they call it competences, which just means that you have the skills that you should learn. And you still graduate through your home school, which is great because you can still play sports with them. You can still be part of leadership through your home school, and they bus you and transport you. So once I finished my vocational school, I already had a job. Actually, I had two job offers before I even graduated to go in towards an apprenticeship. So I went into the current company I have now, into their apprenticeship. They house the apprenticeship at the local offices, and during that time I was doing my apprenticeship, I also did college, and I would do college Monday and Wednesdays after work, and then I would do apprenticeship Tuesdays and Thursdays. And you definitely don't need to do all of that. But it was free for me to go to college. They reimbursed me, so I just really took advantage of that opportunity. And in 4 years, I got my degree, and I got my associate's degree, and I got my journeyman certification for construction. And it's just it's very great if you need options. If I mean, you have no debt when you finish your apprenticeship, and they're paying you, so actually you're making money to learn. Then you have work experience, which is very important on a resume. You have health benefits, And it's very important to just look forward to what you want to do. And sometimes you may think you like something and then you study it and you take years and maybe the job opportunities aren't as open as you thought. Maybe it's harder to get into, or perhaps it's not what you thought it was. So an apprenticeship really shows you what it would be like to have this career and if that's what you want to do. So I guess what I want to leave you with before I start opening up for questions would be, is an apprenticeship right for you? Is learning on the job something you'd be interested in doing? Most people would say yes. And do you have a vocational school near you that would help you to cut down on the time you need to reach your certification? Is there something that you can go to vocational school to do and then see if that's something that you may like, because there's no harm in trying it for the time you're in high school, and then maybe you decide you don't love it or want to make a career out of it. For me, when I was doing construction, I knew I was going to own a house one day. So why wouldn't I take these next 2 years instead of taking typing and philosophy and home ec and learn these skills that I can use for the rest of my life, whether it's for a career or not? And I really hope you guys just leave what I've said and what else we all can say as something that you learned and benefited from. So if there's some questions you guys want to throw my way, I'd be happy to answer.
Sydney, one question is a little more general and technical in nature around the portability of an apprenticeship, but maybe you can speak a little bit to Kokosing's apprenticeship offering. You, at the end of your apprenticeship, you were attained your journeyman certificate, which that journeyman's is what's portable across the country. Does Kokosing have opportunities across the country too? So if you apprentice with Kokosing, you could kind of go in any area?
Yes. So Kokosing itself is a national company, so you can do that. Some companies are smaller, but you can take your title and go to different companies with that same title. And when you're a certified journeyman, if you're a journeyman carpenter, electrician, plumber, there is a guaranteed minimum pay that they have to give you. So that's the benefit of doing that, as opposed to just kind of going off on your own, because when you have that certification, you're saying that you know what you should know and that you should pay me accordingly.
And you shared some statistics about employment in the construction career field, which I've put that image in both the chat and it's on the agenda for the group. So do you want to talk a little bit about the advantage of employment in construction?
Construction is booming right now. Everybody needs skilled labor. Unfortunately, our current labor base is going to be retiring soon. So now more than ever, we really need people to follow in their footsteps and pick up where they left off and bring us further. Especially with technology, we can do a lot more, but nothing beats hardworking individuals.
That's great. Does anyone want to unmute and ask Sydney a question before we kind of transition to our next panelist? But we'll also have an opportunity to open end questions to Sydney later on too. Anyone, any last minute questions before we transition?
I have a question. Can Sydney speak on how many women are in her field of work?
Yeah, so in the actual field where, actually I think I can turn my camera so you guys can see kind of what I do, but this is a building we're constructing and I'm taking a minute just to talk with you all, and it's just me out here. I think there's probably over 100 other working individuals, but within my company there's one other woman in the field. We have a lot more in the office in engineering, so that's awesome because usually women don't go into engineering, but we're at about 50% there. And so we're getting there, we're building. But yeah, it's not very common.
That's amazing. Thank you.
Great question. And your career center, your vocational school is very proud of you, Sydney. So Eastland Fairfield's on the line right now.
Yay,
and they're giving
thanks.
kudos. Good. Well, everyone's saying thank you and great job, Sydney. So we'll give you all some time to think about some other questions that you might want to circle back to Sydney. So thank you so much for your message today, and we'll be hearing from you again later on in the panel. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's great. So our next panelist that we wanted to introduce you to here today, and just correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Dianica Gaston.
It's Dianica, but
Dianica.
Yeah, but I'll go by Dianica too.
Dianica is a beautiful name, and we want to say it correctly. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do and kind of share some advice for our students and educators on the line about some employment options?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here to speak with all of you. I'm Director of Talent for Rev1 Ventures. Rev1 Ventures is a venture capital firm, and basically we are, the way I like to describe us is we're a startup investing in startups. And so primarily what we do is anyone that comes in that has a concept or an idea, a business idea, and they want to start their own business, they can come to us, and our services to help entrepreneurs grow and scale their business is extremely free. It's free to those entrepreneurs because we are a nonprofit. So our whole goal, and we're really passionate about working and helping entrepreneurs, but we just help you to scale and grow your business. And so as as companies or entrepreneurs are coming in, they're growing their business and they get ready to start to hire a team, that's when I come into play. And what I primarily do is I help our portfolio companies, which are the companies that Rev1 has invested in. I help them to find their talent. And typically that talent is either a CEO or a chief financial officer, a chief technical officer, but someone really at that high level, in that high level position to help them to take their business to the next level and to the next stage of growth. And so that's typically what I do. I also help to find talent for our internal roles. So we do have several of those open as of right now. I work with a lot of our entrepreneurs and those startup companies and helping to find interns and also fellows. So like a one-year fellowship as well. But I've been in the recruiting and talent acquisition field for over 15 years. I have worked from third party to healthcare to just kind of all over within different industries. And the one thing that I would say, and tell me, Cassandra, if I'm right or wrong, am I just giving my introduction or should I go into?
This is the advice portion. So yes, any advice that you have for our students and educators on employment, that would be great.
Absolutely. I think that this is a great time as you are starting to think about careers and think about your next stage within life and what you want to do either after high school, during high school. It's just really, I feel like you guys are at the right age to explore and to figure it out. There's no right or wrong. So thinking about what you want to do, you may have entrepreneurial goals or aspirations and things that you want to do, maybe a business that you want to start. And I think working for a startup should definitely be something that you should at least entertain and learn to see if that's the route that you want to go. When you're working for a startup, because it's such a small team, you are able to experience and to be exposed to so much more. You get to learn what it's like to start a business and what it's like to make real business decisions. And it's just really a great experience. So I think as you are looking for your career or what is it that you want to do, definitely look at startups. Right now in Columbus, the startup ecosystem, which is like all of the new businesses that are coming to Ohio or being created in Columbus and Central Ohio, it is growing expeditiously. And you hear a lot about startups in the kind of in Silicon Valley. We're kind of edging our way towards that, where we have so many startups within Columbus and so many entrepreneurs that are very smart and intuitive, and they just have really great ideas when it comes to helping our communities or helping and making healthcare easier and better for patients. There's just so many great ideas out there. So definitely think about entrepreneurship or working for a startup as you are looking to see what it is that you want to do. That's one thing. And I think, as you are starting within your careers, a lot of you don't have a ton of experience, but any work that you've done, whether it be volunteer work or maybe it's work within, the schools that you're in. If maybe you worked a little bit in the office, maybe you helped tutor a student, or maybe you've done some work with your parents or with other, family members. That is experience and talent that you put to use, that you should put on a resume, that you should give yourself credit for, because it does help when individuals that are looking to hire, they want to know what you've done. They want to know how much of a time commitment you've put forth, and where your interests are. What are you passionate about? I know as I'm looking for talent, and let's just say for IT specifically, if I'm looking for an IT professional or someone that's interested in software development or graphics or anything, I like the individuals, or I like the individuals that not only do they work in that field, but they're also passionate about it in their personal lives, where they go home and they do it, and they go and the reason why they went into that field is because they really are interested in it. They want to continue to learn. They want to stay up to date on the information, and it's just kind of what they do, even in their spare time. So that's extremely helpful. So if you have anything like that you're doing or that you're extremely passionate about, grow into that, and learn more about it. It's so easy to work your passion, right? When it sometimes it doesn't feel like it's work because you love it so much. It will feel like work for the most part, but it won't be as bad, because it's something that you're really interested in. And like I said, even if it's something that you're interested in today, you get into that field, you work that talent, and then you figure out, you know what, I think I want to go and be a nurse. That's okay. You have enough time to figure it out. You have enough time to change your mind and make decisions that because as we grow and as we expose ourselves to different careers and different things and different people that are doing different careers, you may have a change of interest. You may have a change of, you know what, I think I want to explore that. It's okay to do that. Get as much knowledge and as much information about the things that you're curious about right now, because this is the time to do so. And then you can grow it from there, and you just never know what will take you. And a lot of times, if let's say that you started your career off in IT, but then you kind of pivoted into nursing, you never know where those two skill sets come together to be able to put you into a whole new different field. And now the things that you're really good at and the experiences that you have come together, and it's kind of catapult you into a whole nother field of work that you would have never thought of. And so a lot of times those experiences can really, really, really be beneficial. So I don't know, I'm really excited, and I'm really passionate about talent. I love meeting people. I love hearing about what they do and what their aspirations and their goals are. I like taking the talent, I like taking opportunity, and I like bringing them together and really kind of just, a lot of times people don't even realize all that's out there as far as opportunity, and being able to educate them on that is really what I love doing, and I do it every day, and I love it. And so that's me. That's what I do. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I'm always here for any questions.
So Dianica, what would you say to a student who has a caregiver or a teacher or another adult in their life, maybe a pastor, that's like, hey, you really should get involved in blank? What would you say to that student, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I would want to know why, why do you say that? I would want to learn a little bit more about that suggestion, or, just what is that profession, and why is that something good that I get? And usually people that are close to you, they'll say, like my daughter, she's very good at debating. I'm like, you should be a lawyer, right? So, yeah. So typically those are the reasons why your people that are close to you tell you that you should go towards a certain profession, because they already see in you the natural ability that you have that really aligns well with that career. So I think you should listen to that, and I think you should explore it. You might disagree, but if you look into it, you explore it, you see why, and see if it aligns. Is it something that you really want to do, or is it something that you want to learn more about? Again, I think right now in these years, exploring and learning as much as you can is really what's going to help you to kind of form your career, and form, help you to know what it is that you're really passionate about and what you want to do for the next 2, 3, 5 years.
Thank you. We wanted to share just a little bit too about some opportunities that employers have around tuition assistance or internships or scholarships. Are there employers that you work with that have scholarship or internship options? And then we also have a few examples from Nationwide Children's that we'd like to share too.
Absolutely. So I know for Rev 1, we have internship opportunities with our startups. So our startups, if you think about it, startups don't always have a ton of money because they're a brand new business and they're just starting to become profitable. And what we've decided to do is we know that there's students that need to learn new skills or, take their education and apply it. So we've decided startups need help, students need help, let's bring it together. And we put together and we launched an internship program last year. And we just help bring those opportunities together with the talent or with the student. And so we do have internship opportunities available as well.
That's awesome. And I'm going to drop that link into the chat so that folks can see that. It looks like Michelle went ahead and dropped a link to your general company's link, and I'm going to drop the internship link. And while I'm doing that, Michelle, do you want to talk just a little bit about the opportunities at Nationwide Children's briefly?
Yes, and before I do, I see there is a question perhaps you can address, Deonica. Someone is asking, can you share your journey to becoming a director of talent? How did you know you were passionate about the field?
Yes. Okay. Because I'm so passionate, I love talking about it too, right? So honestly, I became a recruiter really early on in my career, over 15 years ago, and I kind of fell in it. I was looking for a job, and I went to a third-party search firm, and I went and applied to see what opportunities they had out there to send me to. Like, okay, find me a job and send me. And they offered me to work within the office of that recruiting firm. And so I said yes. And so I started working there. So I started off in an administrative type of role. And eventually I grew into a recruiter. And I realized that it was something that I was passionate about. I love talking to people. I love, introducing people to new opportunities. And so I stayed in the field. And from there, I just kind of grew and became much more knowledgeable, much more experienced. And I do think that there's an innate ability about what I do because I feel like I communicate well with people. I like the connection. I like talking and meeting people, and I like, learning how people think. And so that's because I'm so interested and passionate about it. I've just stayed in it. I've tried to learn as much as I can. And I've tried to put all of my experiences together to really help me be the best recruiter, so to speak, or person of talent. So what happened as far as how I got into my director role is I was working at Nationwide Children's, and I will say I was doing a phenomenal job, and I got recognized. The company reached out to me and said, hey, through LinkedIn, so through a network, they reached out to me and said, hey, we have this opportunity, and it looks like something that you would be qualified for. And through conversation, it actually ended up being a position that I really didn't know that my career was going to go towards. I didn't realize that venture capital was something I would love. And but because someone introduced me to it and said, hey, what about? I said, well, let me think about it. And as I thought about it, and as the stars aligned, it just was perfect for me. And that's how I got my position. And what I will say is that no matter what position that you're in, no matter what your title is, right? When people hire you for a specific skill, they're looking at you to be that subject matter expert. And when you're that subject matter expert, that means that you've taken the time to learn your skill, to learn the industry, to learn as much as you can, and to be able to have a great network. So I think that's really what helped me get into the role that I'm in now.
I think you said two really important things that I want to reemphasize. Number one is your journey did not begin and end in the role that you're in. So students that are listening, your first job is often not your last. And sometimes it's the best way to get your foot in the door is not necessarily to do the thing that you ultimately want to do, but to do something that comes before that. So great advice and great story. And then second is the importance of updating your LinkedIn and making sure that it's current with the skills that you have to bring to the table. So all the students that are listening, make sure that you have some type of a LinkedIn account as you move forward. And if you need help crafting what those professional profiles look like, I know you've got adults in your life that will help be mentors for you on that. So thanks so much for your story. Great story.
And I would even offer myself out there. I would always look at somebody's LinkedIn and say, if there's anything that they need to alter or add in or delete or whatever that is, LinkedIn is the first place I go to start looking for talent, because it's such an easy tool to use to be able to find talent all over the world. So definitely have a great presence on LinkedIn. It will help you.
Thank you so much for that. Michelle, I'm going to drop the link to the Teen Volunteer Scholarship and Nationwide Children's Education and Development pages to their website. Do you want to briefly talk about those?
Yes, absolutely. As Deanna rightfully mentioned, she spoke a bit about the importance of volunteering. And so just to give you an example, several companies may offer opportunities to volunteer. Now, you may not be compensated for those opportunities, but it's a great way to enter the workforce and be able to acquire skills. And sometimes volunteer roles actually can land you a permanent job, or potentially the person that may be mentoring you or supervising you may see a talent or a skill in you and decide to help you on your path to develop that skill set. And so never underestimate the power of a volunteer role. And so just to give you an example, several companies offer volunteer opportunities, but they also may have scholarships attached to it. And I know Nationwide Children's, Deanna and I both worked for Children's in the past, and Cassie just put those links in the chat. That enables you to, after you volunteered for 1,000 hours, you're applicable to apply for their scholarships. So great way to finance your college education. Also, Nationwide Children's, like other institutions, may have specific scholarships to grow their talent pipeline. Institutions, like she rightfully mentioned, they're hiring so that you can solve a problem. And so they're vested in you. And part of that investment may be through a scholarship. So as you're looking and researching and thinking about where your next steps are in terms of developing your skill set and thinking about college, if you're thinking about working while you're in college, you may want to look into volunteer opportunities, internships, and also look at prospective employers, and see if they have scholarships, because oftentimes they are invested and will make that financial investment as well.
Great point. You never know what opportunities employers have to help you with tuition assistance and scholarships. Thank you. Thank you both for that. So we're going to keep collecting questions for you both in the chat. The next kind of opportunity post high school that we want to have an opportunity to share with students is around enlistment options. So our next speaker is William Stratton, and I want to make sure that he's technically able to hear and see us. Bill, are you there?
Hello, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Absolutely. So Bill, we've got your slides all up and loaded. Do you want to introduce yourself and walk us through a little bit about what students' enlistment options might look like?
Well, first, I want to thank you for the opportunity. Okay, I am a retired educator, guidance counselor from Sydney, Ohio, and taught 33 years. I'm also a retired colonel from the Army Reserve, and I'm doing a third career right now as the Army Education Service Specialist. So it's really neat to hear everybody talk this morning, or this afternoon, I should say, and to talk about what I hear from a lot of people's passion. You have to really care about what you do. So what I'm going to talk about is enlistment opportunities, and we'll move on to the next slide. I'm just making sure, are you pushing the slides or not?
Yes, sir. We're on the military service slide that has the general requirements for enlistment. Yep.
Yep, I'm seeing my name. So I'll just go ahead and talk the slides. I have 6 slides, but there it is. And basically, these are my points I'm going to talk about. General requirements to enlist, military education benefits, what's the difference between enlistment and commission, how to prepare for military service, and military service branches. Now, I'm going to talk generic. I work for the Army, but I'm pretty much, a lot of the entrance to military enlistment's the same for all services. You will notice up on the slide here, there are 6 branches basically. We have the Army, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, and the newest branch is the Space Corps, the Space Command there. Also, we have the Coast Guard. The National Guard is a reserve service which falls underneath the Department of the Army. Before I go on the next slide, just talk briefly about commissioning. To receive a commission in the military, you need a college degree, and for most cases. There's 2 ways to get there. There's 3 ways to get a commission, and that's OCS, Officer Candidate School, which is after you have a college degree, ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, and the other one is the service academies. So you have service academies are with the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, have the 3 service academies. Also, I'll mention the Coast Guard has academy as well. There's also a Merchant Marine Academy. But basically, these are how you get a commission. To get a commission in the military, it's typically you have to be between 17 and 30 years old. You have to meet physical requirements. You have to meet the, you have to pass certain scores with the ACT and SAT. You have to have at least a 2.5 grade point average in college. And this will in high school rather, to get in the college programs. So basically that's just, I want to talk about the commissioning sources real quick there. If I could go back one slide, I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of talk about commissioning real quick here. There we are. So basically I want you to look at this really quick here, because this is really important for high school students. To join the service, you can actually join as a junior, senior in the reserve program. So you can join as a senior and be what they call delayed entry program. So if you're a senior in high school and you're thinking about, really the service has that job that you're looking for, then by all means, talk to that recruiter, get your job that you want to get training for. There's over 150 different career fields in the military enlistment fields, okay? And the basic thing I want to say here is they start you from ground zero. So if you want to be an electrician, okay, they will start you from ground zero. You do not have to be an electrician to join. If you want to be a diesel mechanic, same thing. 150 different jobs. Anything, if you think of a city, any job in a city, there's in the military. Water purification, dental hygienist, a dietitian. Any job is there in the military, and it's a great way to get experience and training. You also have college tuition assistance, things like that. But the key thing you have to take here is the ASVAB, Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery. I recommend that you ask your counselor about it. It's offered in the high schools. It's a test that you can take as a sophomore to see where you stand, but also as a junior and senior, you can use that test to go talk to a recruiter, and you won't have to take it again if you scored high enough. Physical fitness and weight standards are key. So you have to be physically fit and with height and weight standards. You have to pass an FBI screening and a U.S. citizen, pretty much. Next slide. So let's talk about enlistment. What's the process? It's a big step to join the military. A lot of people, I'll be honest with you, I taught middle school for 2 years before I joined, okay? So you never know. You might not be thinking about, well, I'm going to join the military. It should be something you look at, because the military has a lot of great training, a lot of great schools, a lot of great tuition assistance, GI Bill. These things can help you in life. And I should say the military, and I'm trying to put this, I guess I said it already, but behind every warfighter is a support system. Okay, you're all warfighters, but the support system, supply distribution, truck drivers, boats. I mean, there's so many career fields that I would encourage you to at least look at the career opportunities. And so that's, a lot of people think joining the military is flash, flash, bang, bang, shoot them up. It's not really the case. You look just look at recent events and COVID shots, given the vaccines. A lot of your National Guard folks have been actually employed given that. So there's a lot of community service, a lot of civil affairs, nation building, things like that come with military service. I mentioned earlier the delayed entry program. You can actually enlist as a senior, all right? And this is something you would talk to a recruiter about. Well, what's the advantage of that? The advantage is getting your school seat. When you talk to a recruiter, they have jobs that are open. You can have only so many dietitians in the military. So they look and see what's open. And then when you go in there, you take your ASVAB test and you sit down with that recruiter, and they will actually vet you. They will interview to see if the military is the right fit for you, okay? It is not the right fit for everybody, but they will interview you, and then you'll show you what jobs are open. And this is why it's key. If you're thinking about military service or just have an idea, by all means, reach out to that recruiter. You're not going to sign a contract when you first talk to a recruiter, all right? Next slide. I talked to you a little bit about some of the benefits. And so on my next slide here, I have basically, just to give you an idea, these are for active duty enlistment, okay? In most services, we're pretty much the same. So I'm on my next slide here, which says military active duty enlistment benefits. There's over 150 different jobs to choose from. Some jobs have bonuses attached to them. And I'll tell you, there's as much like $40,000 bonus. There's a lot of bonuses. For example, cybersecurity. All right, that's a hot job right now, a high demand. So there are certain jobs in the military that have very high bonuses attached to them. Tuition assistance, $4,000 to use for college courses. All right, this is not the GI Bill. So when you serve in the military, Army Reserve or active duty, same thing, National Guard, they have what they call $4,000 called TA, tuition assistance, that you can use to go to school. Your military service also, Ohio is very strong on this. Your Ohio schools will provide college credit for military training. So when you complete your basic training and your advanced individual training, there are many colleges, and Ohio Higher Ed is very active in this, providing college credit for military service. You have the GI Bill, which is like as I mentioned, have like $40,000. Let's go on. In my next slide, it talks about reserves. What's the difference between active duty and reserves? And I'm not seeing that slide showing right now, just to let you know, okay? But I'll just talk to you the reserves. What is the reserves? National Guard reserves. The Air Force has reserves. The Navy have reserves. Coast Guard has reserves. Army has reserves. There's for the Army, there's 120 different jobs to choose from. A lot of your reserve jobs are what we call combat service support. These jobs will actually help people. These jobs are support the community, all right? So medics, engineer type people who build roads and construction and bridges. So if you're looking at a civilian kind of career, construction, it would behoove you, it would be great to check out the reserves, because you can go ahead and you can kind of work both careers at the same time. You can work your civilian career and also your reserve career, which will help you with the training. The benefits are, you still get $4,000 tuition assistance. You can still get like $16,000 to help you with college. There is still the GI Bill. It's like $14,000. And so it's a little bit reduced from active duty, but you still get a GI Bill. And there's like up to $20,000 in enlistment bonuses. So the reserve duty, even though you're a part-time military person, 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, basically is a good program to look at. We're going to go on the next slide, and it talks about military service resources. And the slide I'm seeing shows military service. So I'm a couple slides behind what everybody's seeing. But I will tell you, there's some resources that would help you out. And they're pretty easy. You can Google this, asvabprogram.com. ASVAB stands for Armed Service Vocational Aptitude Battery. Battery is another word for test. ASVAB program, one word, asvabprogram.com. That will show you what that is all about. In that asvabprogram.com, there's a resource tab that has a lot of great resources like careers in the military. and you can go to the careers in the military. You can check out all the branches of the services. What's it like to be an officer and enlisted? That is a fabulous site called Careers in the Military. One word, careersinthemilitary.com. Those are two good sites that really help you think about military service. At what age should you think about military service? At what grade? If you're in junior high school, middle school, there's nothing wrong with looking at military, just like you're looking at colleges. There's nothing wrong with looking at the branches of services to try to understand what they have to offer. And those two sites I gave you are awesome sites to look at. I have another slide. Am I almost done here? I have two remaining slides. They're not showing, but I'll explain it. The ASVAB slide shows you what I was just talking about, asvabprogram.com. It shows you careers in the military, and they're all hyperlinked. You can learn about that. And again, asvabprogram.com. My last slide, my last talking point is, I want to say Ohio is very supportive in military. Ohio it leads the nation. The Military Interstate Commissioner, Pete LaPiva, has done an awesome job in setting up what they call the Purple Star School Program. Many of your schools may already have this program, have a banner in your school. This means that your school is a military-friendly school. They support military families. Some of you might be in a military family, and you understand that sometimes there are some resources there that families need. Ohio also has the Ohio Armed Forces Career Commitment Ceremony every year. This is the 4th year they're doing this. And so if you enlist next year, by all means, Ohio will recognize you as going into that. I'm open for questions. And again, my contact is william.d.stratton.civ@mail.mil. But the two sites to really look at would be the asvabprogram.com and the careersinthemilitary.com. These sites will really help you figure out what to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. And all of those hyperlinks are also in the downloadable version of this PowerPoint, which is in the website that we can drop in the chat one more time. So thank you so much. And by all means, folks, drop your questions in the chat for Bill. Thanks so much, Bill. All right, our last speaker is all about recruitment and admissions for the college path. So if you're looking at going to college after high school, Mark is going to give you some advice. Mark.
Thanks, Cassie, and hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I also want to start by sharing my appreciation for the invitation and all of the other presenters who are sharing some really good information, and actually information that Sydney was sharing, that Michelle and Deanna were sharing, that Bill just shared. There's a lot of crossover based off of your consideration of the enrollment path, so I want to highlight a few of those. Quite often we'll hear that there's an over promotion of college from high schools, and we want to make sure that that's not happening, because we believe that college is for some students, but not necessarily the right path for all students. Right here in Ohio, there are a number of college types for you to consider. Community colleges most often are two-year type of colleges. They offer certificate programs and associate degree programs. Some are also now starting to offer four-year bachelor degree programs in very technical focused areas. But what's nice about starting at, for example, a two-year college is that you do have the availability to start entering the workforce after you receive that two-year associate's degree or certificate, or to transfer to a four-year institution. Four-year institutions in Ohio are both public and independent. There's also regional campuses in Ohio. And the map that you see, the small snapshot of the map, is a pinpoint for all of the two-year and four-year public and private institutions in the state of Ohio. Across all of those institutions, they do have varying requirements. So some are going to be competitive admission, some are going to be open admission, which means you just have to graduate from high school or receive your GED. Some of them are going to be more competitive than others. They're going to require some additional requirements. And all of them are going to require some type of application, and the application requirements vary, whether it be a common application, the common Black college application, which Ohio's 2 HBCUs participate in, as well as the coalition application. So just getting started in the enrollment option, a number of different choices for you to make when you're considering the type of college. On the next slide, we really encourage you, as you're considering those types of colleges, to visit our campuses. When you're on our campuses, there is a lot to learn. So we want you to reach out and meet with a specific department. We want you to meet current students so you can hear about the current student experience and what that is like from your peers. We want to make sure that you are learning about how to engage in our residential areas. If you're going to be spending 4 years on our campus, we want to make sure you know what that looks like. And most importantly, we want to make sure that you're starting to get an understanding of if you feel comfortable on our campuses and if you could see yourself on our campuses as well. On the next slide, I want to offer just a few words of advice around college preparation. The first one is, because there are so many different types of colleges in Ohio, we really want to encourage you to check the requirements for each institution that you may be considering. For some of those institutions, they may encourage you to take courses like honors courses, AP, IB, even take some College Credit Plus courses. All really great options for you to consider, again, based off of the type of institution that you may be considering. Now, we also want you to balance that, take those challenging courses, but also doing well inside of the classroom. So we don't want you to overextend yourself so far that by taking all of these honors or challenging courses, that you're not going to present a strong transcript to us. The last thing on this slide is that colleges and universities are going to view the ACT and the SAT in different ways. So where this starts to cross over into other areas, for example, as was just shared a few minutes ago by our colleague Bill, there is a requirement for testing for some parts of the military. Similar to college, there are going to be some colleges that look for very specific requirements from that ACT or SAT. Right now, a lot of colleges are saying that they're test optional, but that may be for a limited amount of time. So as you're exploring those colleges, as you're visiting those campuses, make sure you find out what those testing requirements are. On the next slide, I want to jump into a little bit of financial aid basics. More specifically, we want to make sure that you understand the different types of financial aid. So on one more slide, we start to highlight the different types of financial aid that are available for you. You're going to see that some of these were mentioned already. So things like scholarships, either through an employer or even perhaps through a university or a private organization. There's federal work study, which means you get paid to work on college and university campuses. There's grants, which is free money, either from the state, the university, or the federal government. That means you don't have to pay those back. On the next slide, you're going to see that I listed a veteran's benefit. So what's important to remember here, and I think what was highlighted by both Sydney and Bill, is that you can achieve your associate's degree, enter the workforce, and then Sydney has a wonderful opportunity, if she'd like to, now that she's in a full-time position, to consider coming back to school. Likewise, Bill shared that he joined the military 2 years after he was already in a position. So you have the option to maybe do that, or even to join the military first and then utilize your veterans benefit at a college or university. So a lot of good tie-ins to those different pathways here. We're going to skip ahead to a couple of career resources that I want to leave you with to make sure you can explore those. Majors.osu.edu is Ohio State specific, but it gives you the opportunity to explore 200 majors at the university. We share statistics like internships, which were mentioned, hands-on opportunities, which were mentioned, career outcomes, potential salaries. There's also a wonderful resource called What Can I Do with a Major In? And this one is linked on the agenda, so we want to make sure you take a look at this link. But it gives you the opportunity to really explore by career thematic areas. So if you're interested in business, what can I do with a general degree in business? Gives you a lot of hands-on opportunities to explore there. On the last slide here, Cassie, again, wanting to make sure I leave you with just a few more pieces of advice. And that really is to, right now, regardless of your pathway, we want you to go to class. We want you to work hard. You're going to have fun along the way, even when you get to your designated pathway, but you have to put the time and energy and effort into your performance now, because that's really what's setting you up for what's to come in your future. Of course, we want you to consider your social media activity. We are hearing more and more from students who are reporting social media posts and have concerns for the type of students they may be in a classroom with. So we want to make sure that you're paying attention to those things now. If you need help, reach out. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And finally, we want you to be involved and participate now so that when you get to our campuses, you're ready to do that as well. Cassie, I will turn it over back to you.
No, I think that's great advice, Mark. And, if you're thinking about, joining the next after high school, if you're thinking about going to college first, like what would be like the top 2 things that you would tell either a current junior or a current senior about applying for colleges?
Definitely. So if you are considering applying, the first one I'm going to say is make sure you understand what the deadline requirements are. So for all of the different colleges and universities in Ohio, we all have different deadlines and different requirements. And that is, student, your responsibility to make sure you understand what all of those requirements are. So it's important that you pay attention to those. The second one, especially if you're considering the enrollment process right away, is to pay close attention to those types of classes that you're choosing to take. We want to see strong coursework in math, science, and foreign language especially. It's very tempting for seniors especially to try to give themselves a little bit of a light year in their last year, but we really want to see you maximizing that curriculum.
Well, at this point, we want to make sure that we give everybody some resources that the presenters shared and that we think would be helpful on your journey of considering what you'd like to do after high school. So we do have this resource list both here in our presentation and in the meeting agenda. So the first one is budgeting for your career. So sometimes you need to have an idea of your lifestyle and how you may want to live in order to try to target a salary for yourself after high school. So these tools can help you do that. As Sydney was sharing her story, we shared a little bit about how you can find some apprenticeship options. Then we kind of move into our employment section here. Ohio Means Jobs has a great job interview portal. So if you're looking for an online tool to help students get interview practice, this job interview tool is excellent. Also some links to Nationwide Children's Hospital opportunities. And Bill mentioned quite a bit about our ASFAB opportunities that you have to get ready for those tests, and then also to explore those careers within the military. And then lastly, the references that Mark made to some resources to help you with. These are in the PowerPoint, these are on the agenda, and they're in the chat at this point. And as of right now, the only question I see unanswered in the chat is directed toward Bill. So Bill, if you're ready, there was a question around needing a college degree or high school diploma to enter into the military. Do you need a high school diploma to enter to the military? And talk a little bit about what opportunity you would need a college diploma for.
Sure, that's a great question. So real quick, it changes. And right now, a GED or a graduate equivalent test will help. I mean, that's good. If you have, the best answer is to have a high school diploma. Always have a high school diploma is always your best answer for any job. But right now, of the job market the way it is, and there's a lot of there's a demand for people right now. Okay, so if you test well, you test high on the ASVAB, and you have a graduate equivalency test, you can join. You can enlist for commissioning. That's kind of typically, let's just say the simple answer is you need a bachelor's degree. Okay. But there are sometimes people can go in with a 2-year degree depending on what kind of skill it is. But I think for this audience, you should know for a commissioning program, you need to figure on having a 4-year a bachelor's degree, and that can be through ROTC scholarship program or ROTC the program with the services. They have ROTC, like Ohio State, for example, has ROTC. Central State has ROTC. We have a lot of ROTC. It's throughout. It's easy. Check your colleges for ROTC. The other thing, if you have a college degree and you did not go through ROTC, you can go to what they call officer candidate school. So that's Again, you take the test and you just go to officer candidate school. I think I answered the question. High school diploma is very important. I just
Awesome.
want to
Yeah,
make
that
sure.
is. Thank you. So at this point, we want to conclude today's panel, but we want to give anybody an opportunity to unmute and maybe ask our panelists some questions. I know we're over time, so we're going to have to keep it fairly quick. I dropped our Career Connections email in the chat if anyone has some lingering questions, and we can help connect you to the presenters. Although, Sydney, not to put you on the spot, you're a hot commodity here, and folks are wondering how they might contact you if you're open to that. So maybe think about if you're open to that and how the best way to contact you would be.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you all. I'll send whoever I need to my email so that they can reach me at any time. And I have a LinkedIn. If you're wondering what kind of work I do, I have a professional Instagram that shows the work I do, and I can just send the people who facilitated this all that information, and you can reach out to them.
That's great. LinkedIn may be a really good spot if someone's looking to connect immediately. So Sydney Young, perfect. Well, does anyone want to unmute and ask our panelists any questions in the next 2 minutes? While you're thinking, I want to ask if you would please give us your thoughts on some feedback about today's panel and what else we might be able to orchestrate for you and your students as career readiness leaders throughout Ohio. Thank you all so much for attending. We really, really appreciate it. Are there any last minute folks that would like to unmute and ask any of our panelists questions? Okay, well, this presentation and agenda are posted up on our website. We'll drop that link in the chat one more time. Thank you all again so much for participating. Great panelists. Thank you all for the wealth of information that you bring and for helping our students get connected to some really great next steps after high school. So thank you all. Take care.
Thank you very much. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.